Director, oh, go ahead.
At 3:03 p.m. on September 24th. All right. Go ahead and call the roll.
Director Finch?
Here.
Director Baggerly?
Here.
Director Johnson?
Here.
Director Thielke? And Chair Hages.
Here. All right. Now time for let's see public comments. Yeah.
Oh, there John is.
Where's the public comment section?
There's John.
I think I'm in, Richard.
Are you okay? You on? Yeah, we can see you.
Okay.
All right, we're at director announcements and reports. So we want to start with Peter.
I'm sorry, can I ask, what time did you start?
3:03.
3:03, okay. Okay. Oh, I noticed something I didn't, yeah, okay, 3:03. All right, thank you.
I have nothing to offer from the mutuals.
Hey, Jim.
Nothing from water conservation. We're meeting a week and a half from now.
Okay. Russ.
Okay, the lake level is at 41.3%, which is equivalent to 98,175 acre feet.
All right. I don't have anything. John?
None.
Okay. Jordan?
Well, before you move on to Jordan, is he online?
I am. Can you hear me?
Okay, yeah. Before we move on to you, Jordan, I just wanted to mention, I put together kind of a scope of work, this is under general manager comments. Put together a scope of work. We really need to have some kind of an office computer and software evaluation. And so I put together a scope. I'm going to get some pricing and I'm going to bring it back next board meeting. All of that software that we have in OBGMA and one of the computers is sorely out of date as far as software. So we need to get that stuff up to a little more up to date because it won't be supported much longer. And what I'm afraid of, it can be really subject to cyber security issues. So I'll bring that back next month.
All right.
Thank you, Jordan.
Jordan?
All right. Thank you very much, Chair Hages. And thank you, John, for that. I'm moving along remotely and mobily right now, so I don't have access to all of the graphics that I have forwarded already to John. So maybe he can do a little screen share as I discuss this. But if not, we can just describe it and we'll have the hydrographs, some key photographs and other information available for the website and distribution. Just part of the reason that we always wait until these meetings is so that we have the most up-to-date information. Water levels are always changing so dramatically, especially this time of year, that if we had issued a hydrograph from a week ago, it'd be out of date, or even a day ago, just because of the dynamic nature of the water levels in the basin. So rather than have a hydrograph or other data available for the agenda package, we often prepare this information on the dates of these meetings, which has the drawback of a verbal and or presentation status, which is additionally challenging in remote meeting times, but nevertheless worth discussing. And if you can bear with me here, we'll talk about this. So what we do on we have our loggers in several of the wells in the basin that record water levels at 90-minute time step intervals. And that's very helpful because Oftentimes, if you just go to a well, you get a snapshot water level. You don't know when it was pumping, when the neighbor's well was pumping, how much interference there was. And this allows us to pick out the peaks and the nadirs of water levels over time. So all that said, today we use the Key well, the Elrod well, which has a depth to water of 135.93 feet. That's 135.93. That's about 8 feet down from last month, and it puts our basin storage at nearly 75%, or about 60,000 acre feet. Also today, on the discharge side, we measured the outflow of the surface water from the basin at San Antonio Creek, just at the basin boundary, where there's a bedrock notch through which all of the surface water flows. And today, and interestingly enough, the Montgomery Creek, which traverses underneath Creek Road, was actually dry, and we've had to add that to this flow that we measured today. But today's flow in the main channel at San Antonio Creek there, which is exclusively everything that's flowing out of the basin, is only 0.64 CFS. Now, that might not sound like a lot, but it is 287 gallons per minute. It also pencils out to about 413,000 gallons per day, or 1.27 acre feet per day. And again, that's a snapshot during some still pretty warm times with quite a bit of evapotranspiration going on. And so what we've done is a data logger within the creek bottom itself. We've secured it underneath a relatively inconspicuous boulder and secured that with a cobble on the outside. So we're actually recording water levels in the creek at the same time step. So not only will we have this time that we're snapshotting this, but we'll see how much daily change in the creek flow is occurring at a very high frequency rate to the thousandths of a foot. So it'll be interesting to download those data and report that in the coming months. So I think that's about all we have for basin inflow, outflow, and storage for now. We'll have more to talk about when we get to the Wildlife Conservation Board agenda item.
Jordan, I'm not going to be able to put those on the screen, so I'll send them to the board electronically. And I wasn't set up for this today, and I didn't know I had limitations on what I can access. So looks like I got to use Dropbox or Google Drive or something, and I don't have those files in either one.
Well, I hope that my narrative painted a fairly decent picture of what's going on, and we'll chase it with 1,000 words of the graphics to the website soon.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Jordan, it would be interesting to produce a graph that compares the outflow on San Antonio to the basin levels for the same period and see how they correlate.
Yeah, that's correct. And it will be more interesting because in coming months, once we have the depth discrete monitoring well in place, we can actually compare that elevation of the discharge point and the highest point of daylighting groundwater in the basin on the exit path to the water levels in the various aquifers that will be discretely screened within the depth discrete monitoring well. The big production zones, of course, tend to be a little bit lower elevation or higher elevation. It seems very rare that they intersect exactly. So that is a good call. We will definitely prepare those kind of graphs in the coming days.
Anyone have any comments? Okay, the next item is public comments on items. Pardon me?
There's somebody that has background noise feeding through. If somebody could mute, it would be very helpful. Yeah. It's like a radio or something.
Okay, the next item is public comments. This is for the public to comment on any items not on the agenda. Do we have any public comments? Hearing none. Item number 7 is consent items. If there's any items on there, the only item we have are the minutes. There's no discussion. We have a motion to approve.
I so move.
Second, Jim.
Got it.
Call
Okay.
the roll.
Yeah, I don't know if Roberta got online or not.
I am. Director
Okay.
Finch,
Yes.
Director Baggerly,
Yes.
Director Johnston,
yes,
Director Thielke,
Yes.
and Chair Hages.
Yes.
That's unanimous.
Thank you.
Item number 8, action items. The first item is the Treasury's report for July and August and the budget and extraction charges by period.
Yeah, I won't bore you with a lot of the details, but what I wanted to point out is because we didn't have a meeting last month, and I did send you the July information, but I thought I'd just go ahead and include it in this agenda. Mainly, if you look at the August budget actuals, and you get into the second page there, you can really see we were spending down a little bit on our fund balance because of expenditures. And now since the extraction charge has been increased, the last 2 months, we've seen an increase in that fund balance. And so that's certainly going to go a ways towards helping us to fund our expenses on the GSP. Also, don't forget, we've got it later on the agenda, we have this water conservation board grant that's going to be looking, putting in this monitoring well. And so there'll be expenditures for that as well. So I also have later on in the agenda a cash flow look. It's what you'd seen before, but we can just go through it briefly. But I want to keep a close eye on this. I'd mentioned the last meeting that we'd look at possibly needing a bridge loan. I haven't followed up on that yet, but things are going to get a little tight, but probably not this year, but maybe in the next year or two. So we'll just need to make sure we keep a close eye on this, and then see if we need a little assistance on a short-term basis.
Any questions? John, what's the lag time on being reimbursed for that grant for the observation well?
Richard, I don't know, because the problem that goes with the Resource Conservation District is who we submit the invoices to. And then they package it up with a whole bunch of other people, and then they send it over to the Water Conservation Board. I think we filed a request for reimbursement at least 3 months ago and haven't heard back since then. So seems to be quite a lag time in it.
All right.
I'll follow up on that and see if we hear anything, give us a more definitive time period.
Any other questions on item 8A? If not, we have a motion to approve.
so moved,
Second, Peter.
Peter.
And call the roll.
Director Finch,
Yes.
Director Baggerly,
Yes.
Director Johnston,
yes,
Director Thielke,
Yes.
and Chair Hages.
Yes.
That's unanimous.
Thank you.
Item 8B, a presentation of the draft groundwater sustainability plan for public outreach.
Okay.
John?
Yeah, I'd like to introduce Trey Driscoll. He's with Dudek, and Trey has a few slides that he was going to offer today. Hopefully we can get him in. Looks like he's better at screen sharing than I am.
Good evening, Chair Hages and board members. Can everyone see the slides?
Yes.
Yes.
Just to provide some introductions, my name is Trey Driscoll. I'm a principal hydrogeologist at Dudek. I've been working at Dudek for the past 20 years. And for the past approximately 3 years, I was the consultant project manager for development of the Borrego Springs groundwater sustainability plan. This evening, I also have Zoe Carlson on the line, who's going to assist with this presentation on the public outreach and engagement plan. Zoe, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, thank you, Trey. I'm familiar with this basin from the time that I was a Ventura River watershed coordinator, and excited to get back in and support the folks on the stakeholder engagement front in developing the outreach and engagement plan, as well as supporting in the facilitation of the public meetings and outreach component of the project.
Good
Thanks,
to see
Terry.
you. And
Well, I know the GMA has now been in existence since the 90s, and I'm sure you guys have been tracking SGMA now for quite a while, especially through the development of the alternative. But just wanted to kind of remind everyone how we got here. SGMA was a 3-bill legislative package passed and signed into law in 2014. Requires agencies of high and medium priority groundwater basins to balance pumping and recharge. The Department of Water Resources designates these high and medium priority basins, and the balance must be achieved by 2042. One thing, we kind of like want to step back here and get an understanding of where we're at today, just in terms of drought. This is as of September 15th, and you can see that really the extreme drought, or the dark red areas, are confined at this point to Northern California, and some of the rest of the Northern California is in severe drought, and currently none of the coastal Southern California is in drought. You may recall that back during the drought of 2012 through 2015, it was quite a different picture. Most of the state of California was in exceptional drought, and basins throughout the state were seeing dramatic declines in groundwater levels, especially in the Central Valley, as a result of lack of surface water supplies. This really led to this statewide program of SGMA, where all Bulletin 118s that are medium or high priority have to develop groundwater sustainability plans. So what is a GSP? It's a detailed roadmap for how groundwater basins will ensure long-term sustainable use of groundwater resources. GSPs are used to provide a description of current technical understanding of the basin and data gaps. One thing that is unique to this basin, having a long-term management agency, is that a lot of this background technical information has been developed, such as water budgets, numerical models, estimates of sustainable yield. We'll be digging into all these with Jordan and John as we develop the GSP, and as best as possible using the current information and analyses to develop the plan. One thing that's kind of unique to a plan is that they require the defining sustainability goals for the basin, and the goals must address the sustainable management criteria for the 6 sustainability indicators. Additionally, the GSP has to identify projects and management actions to achieve the sustainability goal through plan implementation. So this just kind of provides you a general overview of the parts of the groundwater sustainability plan. It includes an executive summary, which is really plain language summary of all the information in the chapters, including the technical information. Chapter 1 is really basic. It's just an introduction to the GSP. It provides information about the legal authority of the GSA, and describes overall what the other chapters provide. In Chapter 2, really it's just kind of very general plan area and basic setting. A lot of this information has already been developed through past efforts by Ojai Basin GMA. Chapter 3 is really where a lot of the work is going to occur in developing the sustainable management criteria for the undesirable results. And then also Chapter 4 will involve discussion of the projects and management actions. And finally, Chapter 5 is the plan implementation. So during all these phases of plan development, SGMA requires stakeholder input. So for the sustainable management criteria, really that gets involved with the sustainability goal. We will start with the GMA's current goals and work from there and go through all the undesirable results. And then finally, through the projects and management actions, we will prioritize specific projects that may assist with the sustainability goal. So this really, kind of provides us a roadmap. Well, got a little crazy there. A roadmap of where has the basin been and where we're going. Again, a lot of the work in this basin dates back decades as far as technical work that has been compiled. There was an alternative prepared for this basin. In November 2019, Department of Water Resources disproved that alternative, and starting in September of this year, we've been preparing or in the process of developing the groundwater sustainability plan. We expect to have approximately 4 workshops. The actual dates of those workshops are tentative. They often potentially will occur in concert with board meetings, but we're looking at having potential workshops in October, December of this year. It should be February 2021, and then April, May 2021, and looking to develop a public draft of the GSP by late spring of 2021. And obviously the plan is due to Department of Water Resources January 31 of 2022. So I was going to have Zoe jump in here and talk about the outreach and engagement plan for the GSP.
Thanks, Trey. So the outreach and engagement plan is a tool to facilitate engagement in the process. It's a tool both for the stakeholders to understand how they can participate in the groundwater sustainability plan development and implementation. It's also a tool for the OBGMA to identify how we're going to meet the requirements of SGMA, as well as monitoring progress towards the goals for stakeholder engagement. As Trey mentioned, there is stakeholder engagement required for every phase of the GSP development and implementation. So the plan is designed to be a really clearly laid out articulation of what those requirements are. Background on the basin for the purposes of the stakeholders to develop common understanding, as well as the background on the agency and the decision-making process, those outreach goals and objectives, as well as the strategy for achieving them. And I wanted to focus today on those last 2 items, the goals and objectives and the strategy, because those are, the state really wants each agency to develop and monitor their own goals and objectives. So that's something that really needs to come from the board. And if you can transition to the next slide, Trey. In drafting the plan, I drafted this initial goal statement just based on the requirements of the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act, as well as my understanding of your discussion at the last meeting and the interest for participation and engagement with stakeholders. And I'm not sure if everybody can see and read this screen. I maybe should have made it a little smaller so that you could read the full text. But I wanted to get a sense at this time from the board if there's any key components of the outreach effort, key goals that anybody has that may or may not be captured in this statement.
So what I'll do after the meeting, I'll send the board copies of these presentations that Trey had sent me earlier, so the board can look at it a little more and think about it. And then what I'll try and do is collect that information, and we'll see what we can do to get this better solidified.
Excellent.
It may not be finalized until next meeting, but I'll get the process started.
And as the outreach and engagement plan is a tool, it can be updated and modified as needed, both during the groundwater sustainability plan development as well as the implementation phase. So should you feel there are additional goals and objectives that aren't captured in the initial goals statement or priorities, those can be added and incorporated in the GSP development process. And if you want to turn to the next slide, Trey.
Hey, before you go to the next slide, so
yeah,
my only comment would be that we stay far, far away from platitudes and make sure that this is written in plain English with our heart on the line.
Got it.
Yeah, excellent feedback. Thank you for that, Russ. And looking forward to getting additional insights into how we can capture that heart.
Thanks.
Any other comments before we transition to our strategies? Excellent. So our strategy is how we're going to achieve the stated goals in our engagement effort. The agency already has a lot of key components for a successful stakeholder engagement process, including a centralized website where information is posted and public meetings that are available to the public and have opportunity for public comments. We included the email as an additional key opportunity for stakeholder engagement, receiving comments via that centralized email, as well as the public meetings and the workshop that the 4 workshops that Trey mentioned that are specifically targeted to achieve engagement and feedback during the GSP development process. And I think similar to John's comment on the last slide, as you're looking through these slides, if you think of other opportunities where we can provide additional outreach and capture additional stakeholder feedback, it would be great to get some insights on that. Does anybody have any questions about the engagement strategy?
No.
All right. Well, thank you for the opportunity to present. We're really looking forward to getting your feedback and your comments on the outreach and engagement plan once we get that out to you.
Great. Thank you, Zoe.
Thank you.
John, you're going to send the presentation to all board members.
Yeah, I'll send you that information as well as the slides that Jordan had today.
Great, thanks.
Okay, any other comments? Yeah, thank you very much. It's nice to see a substantial amount of progress being made on this. So. Item C is the list of interested parties for the GSP.
Where are these parties going to take place?
Yeah, on Zoom.
Yeah. This is the first draft. I put some information together and it was sent to Dudek, and Zoe's looked at this. I'm sure Trey has as well. And so I'm trying to scroll down to it. We got a lot of holes to fill, and I'll make sure, I would ask you to take a look at this from the board's perspective and see if either you can fill in the blanks, or if we didn't add somebody to it, we've missed somebody. I'd appreciate that feedback. But we'll have to start working on this to start getting email contacts and phone numbers and individuals so we can complete the list and be able to get our information out to these interested parties.
Any comments on the list? All right, thanks, John. All right, item D is Wildlife Conservation Grant.
You there, Jordan?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Oh,
Thanks for, hello. Thanks for letting us talk about this a bit more. We've made some progress on this past month. In fact, there are 3 permits that are going to be required for this. One of which is from the OBGMA itself. There's also the City of Ojai permit and the County of Ventura permit for well construction. We've narrowed down the location of this to a spot just right near Bryant Circle and Bryant Place, where it's part of the Hanson Well Do Service well yard. They actually have an existing production well on the far west side of their property. That's the one that we've used as a type log to come up with our preliminary design for the depth discrete monitoring well. And from there, it's we're just going the few hundred yards due east of that, so we're getting closer to to San Antonio Creek proper. We've staked out that well location, and the applications to all 3 agencies, City of Ojai, OBGMA, and then Ventura County, last of all, will be probably issued in the next couple of weeks. So that's where we're heading on that. Fortunately, Hanson Well Do Service is the most reasonable driller for this, as well as being effectively a partner in this, in allowing us to put the well on their private property. If we put it on the public right of way or an area that might be more of a potentially more technically ideal, but fraught with issues of liability and concerns of moratorium of street paving, drilling in the city, things of that nature, just made this the more logistical sense, and it'll be technically adequate because we know exactly what aquifers are there from the E-log and the existing production well that's very nearby. So there's a brief update.
What kind of an easement or agreement do you get with the property owner?
So the plan is to have a very similar agreement to what we have currently for those cooperating entities that own wells in which the OBGMA has data loggers. Same as for the Elrod well, for the Conroe, Topa.
But this is a very different beast.
In a way, the well would still be owned by the property owner, and OBGMA would not own the well. It would just have an access to that well, and it's only for monitoring, not for extraction. So it's not for pumping, at least. There will be some water that's extracted from the well during purging processes, but for the most part, it is a different beast. You're right, Jim. But
what guarantees that somebody that doesn't sell and they want to destroy it? It seems like, and this would be more in Peter's realm, that there should be an easement.
Yeah, oftentimes we've recorded documents with the county to describe that, and Peter, you can go ahead and speak to that, but that's typically how we do this in similar situations.
Yeah, well,
this is actually the first time I've heard about it, so I'm happy to look into how to, make this permanentized, so to speak, this monitoring well. There's any number of tools I think we can employ, but yeah, let me get with Jordan, find out a little bit more about it, and we might need to go to the property owner. I think maybe the place to start would be the agreement.
Yeah.
With the property owner. Let me take a look at that, and then I can get back to the board and report maybe at the next meeting on this.
Because it's an unimproved lot, but at some point I can easily see a higher and better use in somebody wanting to build a building there, and then to some future owner, this just is a nuisance that they want to go away. And if we don't have the right thing in place, they could.
Yeah, that's a great point. And just thinking out loud though, if we go and request an easement, I don't know what the landowner's interests are, but if
me, this was a surprise when it came into private ground, because especially in an industrial setting, I thought we were headed more to like that bike path or sidewalk or something where it is in the public right away, and then I don't worry about it.
Right. Yeah. That makes sense. But the issues we were coming up with there were, size, actual ownership, and some of the requirements, anything from native habitat or native archaeological disturbance issues that were part of what would have to go into that public right of way. It seemed to add a lot more time and effort to that. But the easement thing might do something similar. I think we should explore that, Peter, and maybe just have a sit down with Brandon, figure out what's going to make the most sense.
Jordan, are we going to need CEQA on this?
No, this is a categorically exempt under, I believe, a Class 6 categorical exemption. Okay. So either the city or the OBGMA could make a finding as lead agency for that, I think.
Yeah, I just want to make sure if we're going to make a finding, we've got to bring it forward to the board.
Which public locations did you explore?
So the ones that we explored were along the bike path. If you've been all the way to the east end of the bike path in town, just between the Humane Society and the public storage unit. It was originally thought that was a school district property. It may have been at one time, but it appears that there wasn't anything particularly recorded about that. While it's used by the public as the bike path, it's not really we couldn't find a true easement that was recorded there, at least in our searches. So the idea was to pursue the school district or the Humane Society, who requested a proposal they could put forth in front of their directors and stakeholders, and figure out what they if this was worth their while or not, and we just decided to move over to the Hansen property for a number of reasons, but ease of single ownership use was certainly among the most pressing ones. And anywhere in the street down there on that south side of town has the issue of the paving moratorium in the city. So if we were to put it in the public right away on a street, we couldn't do that for a number of years. And if we put it in the sidewalk, there's slip hazard liability, or the parkway, things of that nature. A lot of infrastructure that's nearby, in addition to proximity to sewer lines. So there are a number of factors that led to the direction we're at now.
Is there anywhere on the golf course that would be suitable?
Short answer would be yes, but that's, as I understand it, is owned by Ventura County Retired Employees Association. And that's something that, while technically could be good, has another higher bureaucracy of interface.
Did you say you thought it was owned by the Retirement Association?
It was owned, at least was owned by the
Yeah.
Ventura County Retired Employees Association.
I think
It's county.
it was
Yeah.
all
County.
public property.
Yeah, it's public, but it's do we go to Ventura County and go through that level of interface?
It's just a county. It has a private lease on it, but it's a county ownership.
Yeah, that is correct.
I would think the county would be, I mean, there's nothing easy about dealing with the county, obviously, but this is something that they would support.
Yeah, I would think that some kind of would be far more suited, especially if you can find a remote corner. I see a much greater likelihood of the proper agreements, although there would be red tape with them. But I find it. I mean, I'd be amazed if Hanson would give us the kind of easement you'd want.
Yeah. So let's. I look to the board for the direction on this. Then, do we pursue the easement recordation with Hanson? Do we pursue a discussions with the county about using the golf course? Technically, either one would be fine. The golf course, of course, is has its benefits, and we can get closer to the creek and closer to the points of discharge. So there's technical benefits and detriments. And
Jordan, what about the park itself? Soul Park is on the other side of the creek.
We wanted to stay on the northwest side of San Antonio Creek, just because there's some information that is in some of the literature about a fault that may or may not exist, a splay, if you will, of Arroyo Prieto Santa Ana fault that may create some differential heads between aquifers in the producing zones and the perch zones, and the correlations that we have thus far.
How could you come as far as the fire station? Does that get you out of your realm that you want to be in?
So the fire station, we'd be pretty much north of where we'd like to be.
Okay.
But if that was the most feasible.
But because Soul Park Golf Course has that triangle right next to the fire station that's completely unused.
Vacant. Yeah, right. Yeah, and if we could get there, maybe that is something. But I think we'd want to explore. And again, looking to the board and Peter about how I want to pursue.
I'm sure there is something else. It's just one I drive past 3 times a day.
Yeah, understood.
Well, other than construction, how intrusive is this thing going to be?
Once it's constructed, it's a manhole. During construction, you'd have the drill rig parked there for a couple of weeks, probably 3, which is the size of the drill rig truck, and then a support equipment or tank to collect some of the drilling mud and fluid returns, things of that nature. Relatively limited. It can be parkable on the side of a city street in tandem if that was the route we would go. Of course, if it's in a private yard, it's already an industrial yard. And then, of course, if it was in the golf course area, that's fairly commonly seen on golf courses as wells are actually drilled.
What's the casing size, Jordan?
We're looking at as many as 6 2-inch diameter casings.
Okay.
The actual bore diameter is less than 16 inches.
And they'll hit different zones, then, I assume.
Correct. Yeah, we're looking at the shallowest perch zone as deep as 35 feet. The next one at 70 feet. Another one at 110, and then a 220, and then the top of the major producing zone at about 280 feet, all the way down. And we can either go to where we get into the saltier alluvial water likely in the 550 to 600 foot range, and or add an additional casing and you get into bedrock. Just so we have a differentiation between alluvial and bedrock waters in that area. Of course, the Wildlife Conservation Board is really more concerned with putting the best knowledge and science into the perch system and its connection to San Antonio Creek, as opposed to the deeper aquifers, which of course are of interest to the OBGMA and understanding of the basin and continued management of the resource.
Well, I would think that if the golf course provides a better location and it's, you know, a publicly owned property, I think we ought to pursue it. I mean, Johnny used to be in charge of that kind of stuff. Is it that difficult to wade through the red tape there?
Well, I was easy to get along with, if you can believe it. I don't know that how well they want to get along with me now in my dotage, but
yeah, I mean, we'd still need an easement, I think, across, you know, to that.
This is drilling a well, and then once that's taken care of, is it just you can walk into it to read whatever measurement devices you have?
Yeah, that's correct. It'd be foot traffic pretty much only from that point.
Lot and pumpers building and any of that stuff, right?
Correct. Yeah, it would if it were in a parking lot, a car could park on top of it 363 days a year.
Yeah.
A question for Peter. Are we bound to follow any kind of competitive bidding protocol when they hire a driller for this project?
That's a good question.
And we do have bids from several drillers on this project already. So
okay,
we do have 3. They're informally requested, but nevertheless competitive.
Yeah, but we'd want to look at make sure we comply with whatever competitive bidding procedures might apply. Yeah, I mean, it's worthwhile to go to Hanson to just see if he might be willing to grant an easement. It's not going to hurt to have that conversation with them, but you know, if that presents a roadblock, then yeah, these other public access type options, I think, it got to be pursued. But
where would you?
Yeah,
where would you go on the Hanson property, Jordan?
So they own actually 2 parcels right at Bryant Street and Bryant Circle in Fulton. Yep. And the spot that they have their existing production well on the far west side of the westerly parcel near Fulton, and this well would go on the opposite, the east side, closer to Bryant Street, on the south side of that intersection of Bryant Circle and Bryant.
Yeah, you know, I'm looking at it on Google Earth. You know, maybe if you get it right near their corner, they'd go for it. But I think we've got to make sure that we get a great easement, so we know that this isn't going to get destroyed when somebody sells and wants to build a building.
Yeah, I think that's a plan. And Peter, we can approach Brandon about that and just explore that option. I think is the way to go.
Absolutely.
Any further discussion? Now we'll move to the GSP cash flow report, John.
Yeah, just briefly, this was asked last meeting to bring back. You've seen this before. This was the analysis that I did looking at setting up what it would take to increase the extraction fee to help pay for the groundwater sustainability planning. If you go down the far left where it says 6A, there's a box there with several lines in it. Total GSP estimated expenditures, revenues, balance, contributions to general fund, and then ultimately the general fund reserve balance, as I'm calling cash flow as well. This is already a little bit outdated. I think, this was 2019-20. We're actually are we in the 2021 yet?
No,
No, we're still in the 20 because the water year doesn't start until October. So we're in the last month of the 20. But this showed at the end of this year a $99,000 balance. That assumed we were going to spend almost $67,000 for hydrologist support, for consultants, groundwater model update, stakeholder outreach was $15,000. Right now, we haven't spent a lot of that, and we've got about $150,000 and change in our general fund reserve. But once we start spending significant more amounts, the fund balance will go down. This analysis showed out in year 3, 21, 22, that we might only have about $11,000 left. So again, I don't want to get too excited yet because we've got some money. We're starting to spend it, but we need to keep a close eye on this. And then if it looks like we're going to need a little support, I'll certainly come back to the board and we can talk about that.
Okay. Any comments on that? Go to information item. I just have one thing. I talked with Russ earlier today, and one of the things that might be helpful, John Mundy has taken on far more than I think he originally intended in helping us manage this organization. And it may be helpful, as Russ suggested, to spend some time kind of giving generally an evaluation, but talk to John about what things that we believe he's doing well at, and also find out from John what we could do to assist him and make his job a little easier. We're not in any position to discuss prices and all that sort of thing. He's not an employee, so if he wants to change his contract, he can certainly request that. But I think it might be an opportunity to let John know how we feel things are going, and give him an opportunity to let us know what he might need from us as far as additional support, and that sort of thing. And Russ is only going to be on the board for a few more meetings, and he's probably spent the most time with John of all of us. So I think it'd be appropriate to do it at the next meeting.
Yeah, I spoke with Russ earlier today, and I'm not in this for the money. That scope of computer services I put together that I think I spent an hour on or something. I'm not going to bill OBGMA for it. I'm not looking for every little nickel and dime, and I've got a good income besides what I get from OBGMA, so I enjoy the work. But I certainly think it's the last time you updated my contract was in April of 2018. And we really haven't talked about things since then. So I would certainly appreciate some feedback.
All right, well, let's put that on the next agenda.
Okay.
Any other comments? Russ?
Let me take my mute off. Thanks, Richard. That was nicely put. I appreciate that. Just wanted to let everybody know that I'm not in it for the money either.
All this time, that's what we thought.
One comment going back to the issue of the reserve and how long the money will last, as a strategy, because I'm going to be joining Russ going off to pasture. But it seems to me that making it clear publicly in your meeting that you're making this effort not to increase assessments right now, and how you're putting that off, but sort of kind of paving the way when you get out to the other end. you know how every time you talk about increasing a fee, everybody, or all the members want to say, "Wait a minute, what'd you do with the last money we gave you?" type of thing. It would be wise to have a little story that was on the public record showing that. And if it all works, then I think everybody should get a pat on the back. But if it doesn't work, to say, "Well, we did the best we could for as long as we could."
Yeah, and I think this analysis had almost $100,000 more of expenses for the GSB than what we've contracted with Dudek. So I think that's helpful. If we needed anything, if we needed some kind of bridge, I think it's short term. We're not talking about a lot of money. And so I'm not certainly at this point looking at increasing or recommending increasing extraction fees. And even this analysis shows that $37 increase that was approved by the board would drop off in 22-23. So that's the plan right now. So if we can do anything to keep the extraction fees where they're at, I'm right with you.
All I'm saying is when you say keep a close eye on it, normally the best laid plans, if something goes sour, nobody wants to be your partner when things go sour. They just want to be the critic. And so it just seems like that if we, as part of keeping the close eye on it, make the picture as clear as we can make it in the public record, and that we are being very cautious and protective of everybody to not raise the rates, but for whatever that's worth.
And I think what'll help that is I need to update this analysis regularly for the board.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that would be probably,
And I think this is one case where all of the fee payers know that Sigma or the GSP is the impetus for the higher rates. So that this is one case where I think most people are going to know where the money went.
Mm-hmm.
Well, because we'll be sharing that information with them over the next couple of years.
Right.
All right, anything else? If not, we will adjourn at 4 p.m. sharp.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Everybody.